You are listening to the Spent the Rent podcast. And now, here's your host, Patty Rose.
Hello, I am Patty Rose. Welcome to the Spent the Rent podcast. I am joined by my good friend, Patric Miller. Patric is a longtime Eugene resident who has had many music and media endeavors, has worked on political campaigns, and done philanthropic work both domestically and internationally. I wanted to make that sound way cooler than it really is. You've done work overseas, working, doing stuff.
Nonprofit in Uganda.
Philanthropic work.
Shut down, yeah.
Did you ever watch, Always Sunny in Philadelphia? He's like, tell me you do philanthropic work. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, tell me you're into philanthropy. And he goes on a date with this chick and he's like, yeah, I'm a full-on rapist, mostly women and children, instead of philanthropist.
Okay, yeah. No, that's not me.
Anyway, so Patric Miller's here. I always like having you on because when I started my Spent the Rent podcast, we were actually going to do a podcast called Two Pats in a Pod. It was going to be me and you.
Right.
And I found out that it's a lot easier to just do one of these things by yourself because it is kind of a bedroom activity. That sounds bad. But
and I was happily married with 5 daughters.
Yeah. So I started just kind of doing it myself. But this is what we call Spent the Rent podcast presents Two Pats in a Pod Volume 7. So we've number 7. So I like to have you. This is actually, I think, the 9th time I've had you on of the 7 to talk about the 2024 election because it's been going on since the 80s. And so here we are. My first thing I'm going to bring up, I'm not even going to ask a question. I'm just going to let you answer whichever you want. I'm just going to say Kamala Harris.
This is not even a choice. I mean, seriously, it's not even a choice. So just to clarify why I'm dressed the way I am, to begin with, I'm bringing my cranky old guy garb back. This is what I used to wear when I blogged my brains out on a website called crankyoldguy.com. Well, I'm back. And I wrote my first column about the election yesterday. And what the whole point about Kamala versus Donald, you can say whatever you want to say about Kamala, but come on. I mean, this is really what it is. It starts out as being a vote, as they say, a patriot vote to save the republic. And the rest of it just falls into place at this point. So, but it turns out she's a phenomenal person. Her husband's a great guy. She's got a lifetime of service. What else is there to say?
Do you think that she is the same, or do you think she's changed since 2020? I mean, I hear a lot of people. I do, because I think the optics, she ran a pretty anemic campaign in 2020 in the primary. Now, that was a tough primary, and you have to understand how these things work. More and more people have paid attention, especially younger people, and I say young, like under 50. In the way that they've been paying attention to how campaigns actually work, getting involved, working on them. And I think they understand more. Like everyone in the mainstream media talks about how the young people aren't going to turn out. I work on campus, on a liberal college campus at U of O. Right. And I hear these kids that are realists, that understand what they have to do. More than the people that you see at the rallies for Trump, where people are like, Donald Trump is still the president, honey.
So the difference with Kamala now has nothing to do with campaigns or how she runs or if she can win or any of that stuff, because politics in general has come down to winning and that not doing anything.
Yeah.
So the big thing with Kamala right now is that she's been very active in the administration. She's learned a ton. She understands diplomacy. She's worked with all the bad guys, all the good guys, everybody else in between. She's seen how politics works in real time, and that's huge. That's something that Donald never, ever got.
Yeah, for sure.
And to say nothing of J.D. Vance, my God.
We'll get there. So you were a Biden guy forever. You wore a hat for a full year that said Biden on it.
Yeah, I still have, but I'm bummed I didn't get to wear it anymore. But,
do you think that in any way that the Democrats did Biden dirty?
Not even close.
No.
This was totally Biden. He clearly fought till the bitter end when they finally took the car keys away. And the person that took the car keys away was Joe. So this is a guy who absolutely is a patriot in my eyes. He has been selfless his entire career. He's done things that most mortal men couldn't do, coming after death of his son, death of his wife and his kids early on. This is a guy that has country first. This had to be gut-wrenching, and it's not just about, hey, you can't win. He had to come to the realization he was not going to win. But the second part is, dude, you're old. And that is man, those of us that have old parents that we've gone through that whole thing, it's the most difficult thing in the world is to admit I've lost a step.
Yeah. It's tough. Even I'm 42 and I feel it sometimes. So, I mean,
you're older than I am in a lot of ways. I've seen you.
Yeah. And we're going to talk in a little bit about streaming football games, and that'll make all of us feel. No, I mean, I was somebody that, I'm going to say that I was never a big Biden guy. You and I have talked about this on the podcast. I was a big Bernie guy in 2020, and I was upset with what was not, they didn't do anything illegal. I mean, the political party did what they did in 2020 after the primaries to get Biden to be the nominee so that it wasn't Bernie Sanders by collusion, by all of them. They all basically, when they had that meeting in South Carolina with James Clyburn in 2020, when it was like, here comes Clyburn's like, oh, no, can't be Bernie Sanders, got to be Joe Biden. So then,
well, it wasn't that simple. Here's the problem. As you recall, I was a 2016 Bernie guy all the way. Campaign for him, I was all in primarily because of campaign reform and, cutting back spending in all kinds of areas. The guy made sense at the time. The problem was he never changed, and he couldn't resonate with a larger audience.
You're talking about Bernie?
Yeah, Bernie.
Well, regardless,
totally surprising.
This is where I'm at with the Biden thing, because regardless, at that time, I was not happy, but I wasn't sour grapes because I knew that what we were dealing with, as long as there's, and I hate that this is the case, but Donald Trump is exactly one of the few candidates that I think is an absolute deal breaker in a way that it's not even about Republican Democrat to me. It's like, this guy is a monster.
Yes.
And, I mean, I heard my dad and a lot of people rant and rave about Obama, but I'm like, that's misguided. With Trump, it's reasonable for somebody to say that he's a monster and that it's unacceptable. Let me say this. So with Biden,
we talk, by the way, when I'm getting my haircut, just so everybody wants to know, this is exactly how we talk when I'm getting my haircut.
I talk.
Oh yeah, you talk over me because you've got the clippers.
But with Biden, I was never a huge fan, but I knew that it was going to be fine, and that he's got I actually am pretty impressed with a lot of stuff that he's done in the administration as well. But I was one of the vocal ones in our community about how he was showing signs of decline for a long time. Yeah. And because I sometimes jokingly won't, mince words about it, but I still think what he's done is amazing and courageous. And I can't believe I'm so behind the pick of Kamala Harris, but she was the only option, because if you're going to not disrespect Biden, you have to kind of do his VP pick. It's a continuation of his White House.
Yes. I mean, it was a combination of things. Yes, all of that adds up. But secondarily, it had to do with the time frame. Thank goodness the debate happened early. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
I've said that a million times.
Yeah, it's
because now we've exposed, they got exposed what was there. The problem was trying to actually run a full-scale mini primary was insane. It wasn't going to happen. And there wasn't any candidate that was, rising to the top at all, except for Merchant, who was, a brilliant man who thought he was going to.
I know he got all excited.
Oh my God.
Yeah, because if anybody's listening, what is his first name right now? I don't know. Merchant from South Carolina or West Virginia. Anyway, he is a Democrat, longtime Democrat that is now an independent, and because he just can't see how woke it's getting. But then the second that Biden dropped out, he's like, "Hey man, I'll do it. I'll save the country."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't want you. Oh, yeah, no, I didn't mean it.
I do think that there's a seat at the table for those people, because I do think the conversations do need to happen a little bit about, and we're going to get to that, about how the woke culture of the Democratic Party, the brand of it, and I don't believe that it's too woke, because I think there's certain issues that we do need to discuss that are kind of, cringy to different people. That's part of what we do in government. But, so we'll get to that. So now let's talk about Tim Walz. When you
hold on just a second. I want to point out to the listening public, this is what you do. We'll get to that. And then we barely get back to it.
I know.
Go ahead.
I know.
Going. It's all right.
Well, we have stuff. Okay, so Tim Walz, when you watch him on TV, do you feel like you were looking in the mirror?
Absolutely not.
No.
Look at this. I have hair.
I just figured. I figured that I know that there's an attempt by the Democratic Party. It's obvious that they're kind of trying to create a brand with the pick of him, but I actually think it's more than that because I think he is a really awesome dude.
It's way more than that because, frankly, the only other names that were coming up was Shapiro and a couple others that had legitimate issues that would have been easier to go against. This is a guy that's fairly easy to consume, number one, but his background is so open to empathy and helping people and service. I mean, all the way through, no matter what he's done. And so they've done their best to pillory the guy, the DUII when he was whatever. I mean, God, and
the thing is that I think that there is a conversation about schools that needs to happen.
Yeah.
That is, this is that time about that woke stuff, right? Where there is some conversations happening, but there's also these just like I had a guy tell me this story, and we had talked about this a little bit when we were preparing this, that this old crotchety conservative dude that we were debating while I was cutting his hair, I should have, but we had a good exchange because I'm trying to just tell him that there's going to be different perspectives. You have to accept there's going to be different perspectives. That's my first attempt. But he was talking about how this woman's kid was taken. They were giving her a gender change, a gender operation at school. And I'm like, these are, even if this happened, this is a criminal thing you're talking about and an outlier.
It didn't happen.
It did not happen. I haven't heard the story.
This is, oh my God, my head's exploding. So this is one of those QAnon things that rose to the top that Trump actually said in person.
Hasn't happened.
Yeah. No.
So my point, like,
how would you make that happen?
With the Tim Walz being involved in this situation, in this ticket, I think it brings up a really important thing where there's a lot of sensible people that are working in schools. They want to paint this picture that it's just a bunch of 20-year-old Antifa kindergarten teachers. And that's not the case. It's the same things it's always been. There's a lot of women, men that are in, teaching. That
I think the key is that I come from a family of teachers. My wife is a school counselor. These people are boots on the ground for what is really going on with our kids and with society in general. I have comfort having teachers in the White House.
That's what I'm
having Biden's wife as a teacher. Obama was a teacher, for gosh sakes. I mean, these are guys that really have their finger on the pulse. So where I am right now is that if you don't have somebody that's got empathy with a capital E running what's going on, then or influencing your opinion, then the country sways the way it is right now. The empathy is not in Donald Trump's vote.
No, that's not.
Doesn't exist. Most of the dogged MAGA heads have no empathy for anyone except for their own individual right. And so it's a night and day thing. Every teacher I've ever known does so out of a sense of service and trying to help, and their empathy and their sympathy and how they solve things is by community. It's huge. So Tim Walz is a great guy. The best story for me with Tim Walz, the head football coach who takes on being the LGBT counselor for the new club, because he knew it had to be somebody like that. That's what compromise is about.
Yeah.
That it's
and that's what
really important.
That's what it's about. It should be about compromise.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, I keep bringing up this customer of mine, but like the thing is that the conversations, we are both making an effort because we really like having our friendship between the two of us. Do you know what I'm saying? And he's, and I'm like, I don't want to make this be a deal breaker, even though some of the things that I think he says are abhorrent. And, but that we live in a community that these people are going to exist. So I
have friends like that. I have some very good friends that are batshit crazy, quite frankly, about some of these issues. And I always ask the same question. That's interesting. Can you give me your source? I'd like to do more research on that.
Yeah.
What you find out is it's always a Reddit post or maybe a QAnon post or something that's coming from the deep, deep, crazy.
I think at this point, I'm trying to focus more just on like basically getting away from the whole what about they did this or did this or that or this or that or you know, and focus more on just that it's like we can still be okay. Like you and I can still talk. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and also focusing on sharing the frustration, you know, because it's like when he was talking about this situation that you're now saying you've heard has been debunked.
No, of course.
But like this, you know, this school that's giving this kid a sex change or whatever, which it sounded like nonsense. But what I said from it is like, look, dude, I share your frustration. One of the things that I do share frustration with, though, is I do think it's out of pocket for somebody to tell a kid that their parents are wrong, and it's dangerous. And so now there is times when that's true, and you have to maybe comfort a kid by saying, you know, I hear you, I see you, whatever it is. But the reality is that's dangerous territory. I'm just going to say that.
Except, here's the problem. Again, my wife is a counselor, and what we're seeing now is social media going lower and lower and lower into the elementary schools, et cetera. Things that the school counselors are dealing with it's a very rare thing that someone's sexually confused. It's not a rare thing to hear that they're being molested or beat up or whatever. That's when you have to say, gosh, you know, your parents are wrong.
Yeah.
You need to really, you know, have an open door there at that point. So it's a huge deal.
Yeah, that's a good point. That, you know, that's kind of these debates. It's like, it's where the rights of a child and the rights of a parent come in and out.
Yeah, but I think again, here's the deal. A kid is a kid is a kid. I've got you know, my youngest grandson is 6 years old. My oldest grandson's 22. And I have a bunch in between there. And I watch the parenting. I watch what's going on. I'm part of that process on many levels. And the kinds of questions that kids are asking now are things that would never cross.
Oh, absolutely.
A million miles. So now we're at this place of, you know, regulating phone use in school, regulating all these different kinds of things, and parents are pushing back. Oh, you're not going to tell my kid what to do. No, you're destroying your child.
Yeah.
And they can't focus in school.
I was on the bus one time and I heard this like 5-year-old kid. He just goes, "Bukake."
Yeah, there you go.
Just like, and I'm not going to say what bukake is.
No, you're not.
But I was like, a 5-year-old should not be saying that.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So, okay. I've heard a lot of chatter about this being an election that's going to be split up by gender. Obviously, you and I are anomalies in the what's going to happen in the results of this election, and I'll explain that. It'll be the largest gender gap in the history in who men and women support. There is an obvious shift in the tone of the Democratic ticket, talking about football, hunting, trying to reach a certain demographic of men. Do you think it's working to inspire a broader base of men who may want to vote for Harris-Walz ticket?
Yeah, I'm kind of jaded on this, is that I understand how polling really works, having done it for years and years. I don't trust polls. I don't trust the methodology anymore. But unfortunately, it's just not a simple male-female thing anymore.
It's not. But there's a lot of it. There is a lot of... They're seeing a lot of shifts and yes, you're right about the polls, but you can also just feel it in society where there's this kind of reclamation from comedians and whatnot of sexist and sometimes racist, not sometimes, often racist humor.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. I'm here for it to an extent, to the comedy, because I'm not a PC person. But I worry about the rise in that stuff, just like Dave Chappelle said, where it's time and a place. Like he didn't want to make a bunch of these jokes calling out racism and then have a bunch of only white kids that hang out with only white people making the racist jokes.
Yeah.
Where I'm going with that is that there's a lot of young people that are turning to Trump, young people.
Yes.
Men that I'm shocked by this kind of, but
you shouldn't be. Here's the deal. Let's go back to
the video game.
Let's go back to kind of.
Yeah.
But let's go back to what used to divide the room. Okay. What used to divide the room for decades was the big three, which was gun control, it was abortion, and it was gay rights, which is now shifted over to gay rights is not as big an issue as immigration. Okay. Now, if you take a male, female,
and you're talking about to the masses, like to just win on the one issue.
How you divide up a room.
Yeah.
If you're looking for the middle, which is where the win comes from, is the middle.
Yeah.
You divide the room first, and then you go from there. So you say, who's for gun control? Who wants their AR-15? Whatever. That's almost all male, because women, just like what happened in Vietnam, the women go, these kids are getting killed. These people are being killed. Their protesters are being killed. How, Kent State, all the how can this, we need gun control. So for years and years and decades, they had gun control and made sense. That is a male-female issue, all male almost, for supporting free rights and having ARs and machine guns, the other way for women. The marriage issue has gone to the side because for the most part, everybody said, look, be in love. If you're in love, you're going to do whatever. That's gone to immigration. That's a weird one, and I'll come back to that for a second. The second one of abortion is one of those that you have to be very careful with, because absolutely most women are going to vote to have rights over their own bodies. They may do it secretly. They may have to do it outside of their husband's, choice, quite frankly, but men don't care as much about it because it's not their issue for the most part.
Probably especially married men.
Yeah.
I mean, unless that they're trying to cheat like a Donald Trump or somebody that
exactly
that's trying to, hide the mistress.
So that ends up being a female heavy version, which is why they're on that in a big way right now. They're after that woman vote. So now you've split the vote, half and half. It gets more dangerous with immigration because that ends up being the not in our backyard, the Karens, the conservative trad wife mentality. The trad wives are
that means traditional
wife. That's a whole movement. That's something that goes along with the ultra conservative Christians, the neo-Catholics. I mean, that whole scene, the trad wife thing is a big deal. So those women tend to vote differently. That's the conservative vote. They vote differently on those issues, and they'll throw away gun control. It's like, I don't care if we have the gun control as long as I get X, Y, Z. So right now, it's just not simple to say it's just this. What's happening by focusing on somebody like Tim Walz is they're really saying to the next level down, the blue collar, the whatever, they're saying he's just like you. He's been through it. He had to work his butt off to get through school. He's not a, golden spoon guy like Trump or Walz, who, Walz's whole thing is, I'm not Walz, I mean, J.D. Vance. Vance's whole thing is just a preposterous lie. I mean, day after day. So we'll see. We'll see if this resonates. I think just seeing the people in person and how they behave and how their family behaves and how all these things come down, I think that resonates more. And let's face it, there's more women than there are men.
Yeah.
They tend
as far as the DNC and as far as them trying to reach out to men more, I'll tell you right now, it was cool for me to see, because I've been in a lot of, and to anybody listening, you have to understand that this is my perspective.
Yeah.
So I've grown up in Eugene and Springfield, and I do this, progressive leaning podcast. That being said, I've been in rooms where I've been looked in the eyes and someone has said, I'm disappointed that a white person got elected. And I'm like, that's a disgusting thing for you to ever say.
Absolutely.
Do you know? And so I've been very vocal about that, where I'm like, yes, representation is important. But for you to be disappointed that a white person won is actually, to me, discrimination.
I've got to think that's marginal.
And I'm not, it is, of course.
Very
yes. But my point is that when there's an effort to be like, actually, wait a minute, maybe we have kind of tried to make it about, I'm with her kind of deal. But now this campaign is including the people that are the I'm with her people, and also including the people like me who are, I'm the reason that I support progressive values is because I believe in marriage equality, and because I believe in the idea of universal health care, and because I believe that we can make sacrifices to make for the better good as a whole. We need to work together as a unified front. And I want to elect candidates that are actually trying to bring people together, that are not talking about the other side. They're talking about one America.
Is the key. Working together is the key. And so it really does come down to educating the electorate enough to go, look, you're not going to read all 900 some pages of Project 2025. At least go look at Agenda 47. Because that is absolutely what these guys want to do.
They want to ban porn.
They want to ban everything.
They want no, I know. I was listening to this podcast, and this might be the wrong time to mention it, but it's really good for anybody listening. It's just I'm a fan of it. It's called Somebody's Gotta Win by Tara Palmieri, and she interviews like insiders that are running the campaigns,
right?
And it's really informative. But they were talking about that. Like, do the Democrats want to actually push that? Because I know young people, they're all trying to get the young vote. I know Trump was trying to get the young black vote, and that whole thing where he said, I mean, she's only been black for like 2 days.
Yeah.
That was not an ad lib. Like, that was calculated. He's trying. Same thing with him selling shoes. Every time he visualizes what it is to be black, it's racist.
Well,
But
it is. I mean, again, here's. Let's go back to what I was going to say before, which is this: Donald Trump is a moron. Donald Trump does not believe 95% of what comes out of his mouth.
And it's so clear to see.
Yeah, no, but so that's obvious, right? But the people behind Donald Trump are terrifying in that if the authors of Project 2025, the authors of Agenda 47, these are the real people you're electing. It's not Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It's not J.D. Vance. These are shills. These are puppets. The people behind those projects, the neo-Catholics, the neoconservatives, that is dangerous stuff. It is completely gutting our democracy. And if the people don't look at, don't see it, if they don't take the time to read it, if they get sidetracked by Tim Walz's DUI when he was 22 years old, you're doing the whole country a disservice. That's the bottom line.
Speaking of getting a DUI when you were young, Dick Cheney Dick Cheney is endorsing Kamala Harris for president. Her Dick Cheney, who is also Darth Vader, his wife Liz Cheney, who worked on the January 6th Commission. His daughter Liz Cheney worked on the January 6th Commission, and John McCain's son Jimmy came out and endorsed Kamala Harris. And the Democrats, it's interesting bedfellows, but do you think that the Democrats should be supporting or celebrating Dick Cheney endorsement?
Absolutely. And here's why. Because what you just said, there is nobody farther right than Dick Cheney.
Yeah, he's Darth Vader.
But here's the deal. These are old school Republicans that believe in true conservatism, and they are not this new MAGA crazy, we hate the world, we're going to take our guns and take over the Capitol building.
Yeah, isn't it ironic that the traditionalist in our country would be like, wait, maybe we need to go back to kind of like a 90s attitude, right? Is what people are starting to see.
Part of the 90s. I mean, Cheney was really involved with the Tea Party movement in 96 and 97, 98, 99. Which actually created the crazy stuff for well, it wasn't even the MAGA stuff. It was deregulation. Some of the things that they did in 96 have absolutely altered who we are as a nation. Deregulating media ownership, deregulating banking regulations, taking away the onus of being able to sue internet companies.
So media meeting in 94 when they did like the Fair and Balance Act or whatever it's called.
That was in the 80s. For the original, But
in the 90s, they passed something that made it to where they can just basically
that was it.
Make journalism that's entertainment. I mean, what I'm doing is not journalism. We're just having a conversation, but anyway. It's interesting. Adam Kinzinger spoke at the DNC. I think Adam Kinzinger doesn't hold a lot of weight with obviously any real conservatives, but I think there's people that are. I have a lot of friends that grew up in this area that may lean conservative, but they're the type of people that voted for Obama and then voted for Trump twice, and then could this time vote for Kamala. I mean, it does exist, and I've also tried really, really hard to look for reasons that I can see that people would justify voting for Trump, and overlooking it. I mean, I personally
can't find.
There's certain people that it's. The reasons that they're voting for him make it to where I don't actually want to be their friend anymore.
No, and that's very, I'm just going to say it out loud, and I don't care if they hear me say it or not. So
this is being recorded, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I belong to a country club. I've heard conversations there that reveal the true Trump diehard cult, folks, and it's all selfish stuff.
Yeah,
it all has to do about tax, keeping the taxes low so that they can keeping more money in their own pocket. It has to do with not regulating the stock market.
Yeah, like eggs are $70. Like they say things that aren't even real.
No. But the bottom line is that these people don't have any sense of anything except self. That's why they're Trump supporters.
But why is it that why is the economy just that Trump's economy is incredible. Why is that the viewpoint?
It was
Because it's not true.
No, it's,
Because there's so many metrics that have shown. I mean, yes, COVID was an outlier, we hope. But the thing is that the fact of the matter is when a crisis hit, he panicked and did nothing.
right.
So what's going to happen if another pandemic hits, which it is happening? I mean,
Yeah.
COVID's not gone.
Yeah.
So I don't, they're like, no, that was because of COVID. I'm like, yeah, and he bungled it. So that's bungled it so bad that our economy almost tanked. And the reason that things are slow and steady is because that's what Democrats do. It's slow and steady recovery so that it actually works. Whereas what Republicans do is just big, fast tax cuts to the wealthy.
All you have to do is look at what he said this week that proves the guy has no brain in his head. First of all, he's going to point Elon Musk as the guy that's going to help cut the government. Yeah, it worked really good with Twitter. Good job, Elon. But that's silly stuff compared to the huge tax cuts they're talking that equal trillions of dollars that cannot be recouped in any way. So there goes all of the infrastructure, there goes all of the rebuild, there goes all of building chip plants, there goes all of the different things that we're starting to do finally. And
so they'll cut it all, and then they'll say that it's not going to work. Yeah,
because the rich guys want a tax break. That's really what it comes down to.
So I mentioned that I've been listening to the podcast called Somebody's Gotta Win. It's super engaging. You should check it out. Is there something, what do you like to listen to, and where do you get a lot of your information for this stuff?
Man, if you look at my iPad, you'll see that it's a huge range of stuff. I've always been a media junkie or a news junkie in a lot of respects. So at the very top of the list is Washington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. But I have direct feeds because I used to have a company, if you remember, that actually got news feeds for 186 markets across the United States. So I still am kind of a news junkie. I get AP directly, I get Reuters directly, but I also like to know what's going on the other side.
Sure.
So I actually do subscribe to Donald Trump.
On Truth Social.
Well, Truth Social is one of them. It's what's going. It follows everything Donald Trump. I get news feeds from Fox News. So basically, I can look at a story and go, oh, okay, I see where this is going. I do not do cable news channels. I'm not a big fan of CNN, Fox, any of that, because it's commentary. It's not news.
Yeah.
So for me to get an actual idea of what's going on, I will look at the same story in all those different sources and see what the difference is. And the reason was I got out of the business basically in 2020 after the last election because we could see an organic story happen in Poughkeepsie, New York, whatever it was. And by the time it got up to CNN and Fox, whatever, it had been rewritten and channelized.
Anytime you've had, and there's differences between the way that Washington, D.C. is covered and then like a murder in your hometown.
Sure.
But that being said, like any time that I've known anybody linked to a major story, it's always been botched. And so it's like, how can you believe that? And I mean, I don't know. I always kind of like look at the hypocrisy about like what I like doing, having these conversations. But the whole point of my show is that I'm just a dude. I'm just a dude that's having these conversations because we're having them all the time. And I think that people like me are who needs to stand up and use their voice.
So going back to the rest of that question, Patrick, is that the guy that said they had the operation that changed the sex, blah, 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 blah. And my response is, what was your source? I'm interested in that. What's your source? Let's go look it up. So here's
freedomeagle.net. Freedomeagle.net is where he found that.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So my point is there are myriad sources for bad information, made up information. Now that we see, again, this last week, they've proven that the Russians are literally infiltrating our news services with fake information.
Well, I mean,
but
it's been obvious, but it's
way better now because of AI. But bottom line is this. What I challenge every single voter to do is find a source they trust that's not an online commentary source, and then vet that by looking at the counter. So again, the difference is this, and I know
I found a really good one that I'm getting, and it's really easy to digest. I think it's called 1440.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
That's a good.
So 1440. Anybody that's just wants to have the pulse of what's going on in our world, I really recommend, it's a daily newsletter, 1440. So
Yeah.
just Google 1440. And I recommend it because and then also Heather Richardson Cox,
Yeah.
somebody that I really appreciate.
Heather Richardson is really, really good at the history and giving context. There's a lot of words. A lot of people don't read it.
Yeah.
The 1440 is basically an amalgamation of the things I just said.
Yeah.
It's a lot of Reuters, a lot of AP, those kinds of things. AP is direct, just the news, only the news. But here's what I'm going to go back and say again. If you're relying on YouTube or Reddit or any of those kinds of things for an opinion or for a news source or whatever, you've got to vet it. You've got to take that thing and go, that doesn't make sense. Or, hey, gosh, really? And then you look it up and you realize, no, this is.
Well, and that's what I've always said doing a podcast is that, like, if I'm misspeaking or any of that, that's fine. My goal is to raise awareness about certain issues so that then you can dive deeper into it, you know what I mean, and find your own stuff. But
the danger in it is becoming so popular. You're Joe Rogan, who is an absolute moron. No, sorry. This is a guy that has kept Aaron Rodgers and the Kennedy type of guy alive because Joe Rogan understands ratings.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan understands
a lot of it
his audience, who his audience is, and Joe Rogan panders to that audience.
Well, I think that you look at Alex Jones. Okay, Alex Jones has evolved. Like Alex Jones was crazy to begin with. Yes, I'm just saying.
Well, the look on my face. The evolution is because he got sued out of existence.
What my point is that Alex Jones was something in 2005, and I was young and impressionable that I would kind of like tune into his stuff, right? Early on, when YouTube was starting out, his Prison Planet stuff, and and I look back at it and it's ridiculous. But some of it, the reason that it wasn't, well, I don't want to go too sidetracked. The point is that Joe Rogan is doing the exact same thing. In the beginning, when Joe Rogan started his podcast, I thought it was awesome. I thought that the different kind of conversations he had, but then it's starting to be more and more common that it's like, okay, what can get clicks? What can get feedback? It's all about
metrics.
So it's all about analytics and that kind of stuff. And it's pretty clear, you know, but I disagree. Well, I don't know about him being a moron. Point is that I support free speech. And so as much as I hate it, and I'm not saying you don't, but I'm just saying as much as I hate some of the conversations that happen, I think more conversations are actually better than less.
Except look, let's take this down to the granular level. Let's use an Aaron Rodgers as an example. Aaron Rodgers has fans because he's a football player, and the guys he's a bro's bro, you know, and that's exactly Rogan's deal. He's a bro's bro. Well, the bros are the same guys that are MAGA hat wearers that are whatever, that go entirely off of, you know, conjecture and rumor and dirty jokes. That's their lot. So here's the thing. All you have to do is go watch Joe Rogan's Netflix special, and you go, holy crap, that's who this guy really is.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's not great. And so you realize that's the root of who this guy is. He's a half a step for me. He's a better spoken Hulk Hogan. He's not the guy, but his audience is huge.
Yeah, I like a lot of stuff
that he's bring him out.
Well, and that's the thing is that what I've always said about Joe Rogan though is that he's misunderstood in a way that, like, he's not a MAGA guy. Like, he's not. He's voted Democrat most of the time.
Anybody that supports
but at this point, he knows his brand. Yeah, I think, and Elon Musk has changed too. And it's funny because Elon Musk is making a political decision in a lot of what he's doing because that's not actually how it works though with the Democrats. I really don't believe it. They're not going to it's not just about vengeance like it is with Trump, where it's like, if you don't kiss the ring, then you're out. Because if you do something that's going to be reasonable, they'll listen.
The problem with somebody like Musk is he gets enough control to do what he wants to do, and now X has been turned into a hotbed for racism, sexism, all kinds of things that used to be off the map. They have to go back and change the law that they passed in 1999 and 97 that makes all of the internet companies unculpable for what's on their platform.
Yeah.
It's got to change.
So we got to move on. Can we talk a little bit about TV and streaming? What an absolute nightmare. And I didn't want to be the old guy. That's your job. But I literally wrote this in my notes. But heavens.
Yeah. No,
because it's we're
talking about.
We're witnessing the Big Ten corporate takeover. It has not been smooth. Do Duck fans overreact too much? Does everyone overreact too much? Are we overreacting over Trump? No, those are too many questions.
Okay, too many questions.
No,
Let's go. Yes, no.
Yeah. So let's start with the Big Ten. The Ducks moved to the Big Ten, and it has not been smooth. Last night the game was on Peacock. It was glitchy. It was, and I have the most expensive, the fastest internet, and it's ridiculous that it's still choppy as hell. And I hate streaming channels. I hate streaming live TV. I love to be able to flip channels at the commercial break. You can't,
right.
We had,
you can't record, you can't go back. I mean, yeah,
we had a glitch happen to where this is such first world problems. I want to address that, obviously, but still, it's like, why do you break something that works? Like, just television has been doing this forever.
Yeah.
But I have surround sound. It's not great, but it works. And I don't even notice it until something happens bad. But there was a glitch, and then it made it to where there was a delayed track.
Right.
And on my surround sound that was happening, so then I had to exit out. It took 8 minutes to get back into the game.
Yeah. I had to reboot. I actually had to reboot. I got a notice from my Comcast provider that I had to reboot my box because they were having a problem with that channel.
8 minutes is how long it takes a Democrat to fill out all 37 ballots that they get to fill out every election cycle.
This is a small part of a bigger question, which is the amalgamation, is the open portal, is all of these things, is it good for college sports? Hell no. This is, you want a cranky old guy?
Yeah.
Man, do I hate the new league, the new way, the new everything. The team played like a team that hasn't played together because they haven't.
Right.
They're all transfers. There's NIL money being discussed openly on TV now. Oh, that's so great. They
didn't even talk about school. Like with the Pac-12 network, there was always like these kind of like obviously done by college student commercials that I love. That are like at the University of Oregon, we focus on this or whatever. And then at Cal, and I was like, this is tight. Like this is the point. No, not one mention of anything scholastic. Is that a word? I don't know. I need to go to college. There's no mention of education. And it's not obviously some of these people will surprise you. Some of the athletes that are really getting a focus on education. They really are.
Very few.
But it's really
weird
weird
right now with the basically what's happening with the open transfer protocol is that you've got 5th, 6th year seniors coming that have already graduated, or they don't have any intention whatsoever of finishing school because they're going to jump to school if they don't start this year.
But these are two different things. There's the school and what's happening with the football and the student athlete. But then the streaming packages, I wrote a joke on Facebook and I was kind of trying to over exaggerate stuff. And it's funny because my friend group, it ranges in age by like a 50-year gap.
Right.
It's like my humor.
I'm on the top end.
I know. And so my humor sometimes falls flat because I thought about it because like the way I worded it, I said something like, okay, so if you want to watch the game tonight, that's what you got to do. You got to download an app and then you got to start a line of credit through Chase, which is separate than the app. But the reason you do that is because there's a perk that gets you 6% off your first 3 months of whatever streaming app you had to download. But you have, or no. It gives you 6% off a free membership to DoorDash. That's what it is.
Right.
And then the DoorDash driver gives you a coupon code that you use in the app that gets you 6% off your first 3 months.
Right.
And then you can get this free streaming app for a few hours, but you got to cancel it before the very end of the game where you're going to be charged the full amount. And I start listing all this stuff. And I said, if you're old and this is confusing, then you're too old to run for president. And B, you're too old to watch football now because the world hates you.
Yeah.
And I was joking by saying that because that's how it felt to me at 42 years old that I'm like,
well, I'm as tech as you can get. That's been my whole life is tech. And I'm at the place where, no, seriously, I'm at the place now where I'm throwing my hands up because every game is a different source. I watched it last week by pushing Fox Sports free app to my TV set.
Yeah.
And the absolute hilarious part about all of this stuff, they're doing it for revenue, right? Well, no one owns the commercial rights on half of this stuff. So what happened with Fox Sports is they had 2 commercials. They ran all night long, and then it would stop and say, we'll be back in a minute.
It's terrible.
And then add to that the 2-minute timeouts. Oh, my God, my head is going to explode. I saw the same commercial and then a minute 30-second
Yeah.
gap over and over
That's
and
like
over
what it was
again.
like when you were watching, and it's in kind of grainy video.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And this is what it was like when they had the Ozone, which was the Ducks had a streaming platform
Yeah.
for $10.99 a month.
Yeah.
That this was like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yet now we live in, what is it, 22K now, or 8K, or wherever we're at. I mean, the picture quality, the long shot camera of the game last night was atrocious. It
Yeah.
looked like it was in the 90s, like
Yeah.
it was fuzzy.
Well,
And
and it's not even, the quality is one thing. The streaming, being able to buffer that many, users is another thing. The technology, for me, it's being forced because these guys can't get their act together. The fact that the Pac-12 network used to work was a good thing. Big Ten, we can't make it work because they can't get a deal done with Comcast. So they're blacking out everything on the West Coast. It's insane. So this is not a good move.
No, it's not.
And then add to that the fact that well, let me go back. I've got some old football buddies that I have every Duck game. We call each other the next day and talk about it, right? We all said the same thing yesterday or this morning. It's like, well, I was surprisingly calm, mostly because I didn't know the name of most of the players. I didn't know what was going on because I didn't know 3 of the coaches. It was weird because this whole transfer protocol thing, these guys haven't played together. How can I possibly know who they are?
Yeah.
So, and that's the way they played. The O-line played like they hadn't played together.
And
it was
a bad. They pulled it off. Ducks are 2-0. That's what matters.
Yep.
But so 60-something days until the election.
Yes.
We're recording this before the debate. That'll be this Tuesday. What are your expectations for the debate? And then, what are your expectations for the election?
So my expectations are that I'm going to be so nervous and freaked out that it will make the Duck game look like nothing.
Right.
Right. But no, I think Kamala is going to do very well. The difference between the two is obvious. My concern is the right people won't watch it. First of all, I don't think that there's a lot of undecideds that are going to take the time to watch it.
They'll see clips.
Yeah, they'll see clips. They'll see what's going on. The difference between them is huge. Age, mental acuity, empathy, intelligence. And my hope is that she can get him talking about crowd sizes, water pressure, how schools.
How attractive he is.
How schools are doing sex change operations.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead and bring that up because it's such ludicrous, insane. But the bottom line is that if, in fact, she does what she can do as the kind of person she is today, not who she was 4 years ago or 8 years ago or 6 years ago, if she can bring the talent she had as a prosecutor to a convicted felon who is batshit crazy, I think she can get him to look and sound just like we need him to look and sound.
Yeah.
The comparison should be extremely obvious at that point. Now, whether it will move the needle, even the Pod Save America guys say, even if she kills it, it may move the needle 1 point. And the problem is we need to move the needle about 5 points to be able to overcome the issues of the electoral college.
Yeah.
So this is absolutely a tight race. And so the conversations I want young people. I want my grandkids. I want the Gen X's. I want all these people that are on the fence. I don't want to vote. This is not a big deal. They need to watch. They need to consume. They need to register, and they need to vote.
Yep.
Period.
That's
it.
Huge. It's huge to turn out. Make sure that you're registered. You can go, to the Secretary of State's website. If you just Google how to register, it's easy.
Yep.
And so, make sure you're registered to vote at your current address.
We have to have a huge turnout to win.
Yeah.
That's really what it.
You had said, you were talking about how unlike football, you can vote for a winner before the game starts.
Yeah.
Because it is early voting starts like in 2 weeks,
yeah.
For a lot of places like Pennsylvania, some of the swing states. But you can actually bet on sports though, and presidential elections. Right now, the Vegas odds, I read it almost every week. I just kind of Google it, presidential Vegas odds, because it is interesting. Right now, they've got Trump at minus 110, so he's the favorite still. So this is, there's a lot of momentum with Kamala Harris, but it is not over. Locally, I mean, Oregon, it doesn't matter, but in the swing states, there's a lot more than normal though. A lot more swing states. You got North Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Arizona, Nevada.
So I have a couple of really well-connected friends in Pennsylvania that tell me that that they're going to bring out the vote and that she'll win Pennsylvania. There's a groundswell. There's all this thing. They're saying Shapiro's going to get out there and knock it out of the park.
I think so.
If we can get Pennsylvania, if we can get, any of the other two swings, then we've got it. But here's the problem. We shouldn't be this close.
I know. It's
It
crazy.
should not be this close.
It's crazy. So
God.
we'll see what happens. Next month, I'm going to be, I'm in talks with Karin Knudsen, the newly elected mayor-elect
Nice.
of Eugene. She's going to come back on. We had her on back in December of last year. And, it was right before the primary was ramping up.
Mm-hmm.
And in Eugene, if you get over 51% in the primary, then there's no runoff. And so there's no reason for the election in November. So she's already won for her seat, and she's been out doing stuff and getting more acquainted with the role. I'm really impressed with her. I'm a big fan. And the fact that she's coming back after being elected shows another thing that she actually does care about our community, because this is a small podcast, but she's going to come back on and we're going to talk about get out the vote efforts, and that's what she wanted to do. So we're going to do that.
Cool.
A couple of things I want to really have people dig into. Look into this Measure 118. Okay, so this is the Oregon People's Rebate. I have done podcasts supporting this in the past. I haven't made up my decision now that it's actually on the ballot, because when I hear a tax on sales, it makes me nervous. Because there is a small, and we'll see. What do you have to say about it? What?
I'm not going to say, go ahead. I want to hear the rest of what you say.
I just worry about that because it's $25 million if I'm wrong. I think I'm right. Well, I'll have to look into this. But it's a tax. It's a 3% tax on sales over, if someone is making over $25 million in sales. There's companies that with, sale, I don't know. Does that equate? I mean,
for me, it's a weird bill. It's a weird bill to target. I like Kamala Harris's direction.
This is just
better.
a local one.
I understand, but I like her approach better of giving tax breaks for small business up to $250,000 of income. It's a huge deal.
Yeah, $50,000 tax break is big. She's talking about. Kamala Harris proposed a $50,000 tax break for small business. I hope it's not just startups. I hope it's all small business.
All small business.
And then the other one was $20,000 or $25,000 tax break if you buy a home, which these are the ways that it doesn't put the money in your pocket right now, but it does at the end of the year, the hit, and it can really help.
It makes a big difference.
It does.
You can actually, you can jig out how much you have taken out of your wages, et cetera. But no, the problem I have with any of these types of measures that have a cap that is so high, if you go around Eugene, Oregon today, if you look around where we are, I've told you before, I'm like dancing around starting the Shop Local 541 thing again. I took the time to go downtown and talk to businesses and actually get a feel of what's going on. It is atrophied at times.
Yeah.
If it's not for Fifth Street and what.
It was originally going to be $750. Now I think the average person would get up to $1,600 a year. This is what this measure does, and it gives you $1,600 a year that you could have as a rebate on your taxes, right? So you could get it now if you want. So you go to this website and you get that money today, which I think has really cool. It's like rainy day fund kind of deal.
Where's that money coming from?
It's a tax on sales for businesses that make over $25 million. Now, and so
how many businesses are there like that in
Sure, that's true.
Area?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
$25 million is a healthy pop.
Yeah. What about so maybe I'm naive, but I'm asking, what about like a restaurant, right?
They're probably not doing that.
They do They do in the sales. They bring in $1 million a year.
But they're talking. I believe they're talking about actual profits, not just revenue.
No,
just revenues.
Sales. I hate that.
Well, that's
the part that I don't like because margins are different for different industries. So when you just tax sales, I don't like it.
Yeah, well,
I'm going to try to reach out to them because I think his name's Antonio Gilbert, whatever is the guy that's doing it.
So
cool.
To your point, Winco would be tax. You'd have to pay a sales tax on what you buy at Winco.
Yeah.
No, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
Here's the hard part though that I will not. You'll not agree with me on. Is for decades I've said Oregon not having a sales tax is idiotic.
I agree.
We have this personal income tax. They should eliminate that. Have a sales tax. It spreads the wealth around. It spreads the price around for doing the stuff we need.
Well, because like when somebody comes and stays at your house, and it's great to have company, but when they leave, you have to clean.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it's like having no sales tax. All these Californians come up here and they shit in our streets because people think it's the homeless people, but it's not. It's the Californians. And so
this is what I like about you. The haircuts are not long enough. If I talk to you long enough, you will say something that's completely
nobody's listening at this point.
This is great.
So, hey, another one I want to look into more is 110, which is the decriminalization of drugs. They're changing the rules, and I'm actually going to talk to Karin about this. I'm going to see if I can.
They already did it.
And I want to see what are the laws in Eugene. I mean, like what
are you going back to selling meth again?
I've never sold meth.
I'm joking.
No.
No, the thing is, I think that what they've proven, and this is a very difficult conversation, but what they've proven is the huge black and white version of how they criminalized and decriminalized in the first place was that it left way too many openings for, people just running rampant but then you go back to how do you afford to do XYZ? The main reason they did it is they didn't have the jail space. They didn't have the support. They didn't have the money to be able to enforce the stuff that is happening.
Yeah.
So it's a weird
No, but I mean, it's an interesting thing. So I'm going to see if I can do some stuff like that. So, hey, Patric Miller, Two Pats in a Pod. This is Spent the Rent Podcast presents Two Pats in a Pod. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
We're going to get out of here with a song. Tell me about this. This is called Tea Time.
It's the dirtiest song I ever wrote with my band Doppelgang. So this is a song about what old people do to get excited, I guess. It's so loaded with double entendre that when I played it I did a little concert thing last fall with Terry Robb, and I played this, and all of my grandkids and my sons-in-law were just aghast. They were like, "What? That's grandma you're talking about."
What a perfect place for it. So we're gonna end this with a song. This is Patric Miller with that's you, just you.
Yeah, Tea Time.
So Patric Miller with the song Tea Time.
It's Doppelgang, actually.
Oh, darling, no one can touch your style. The way you dunk your donut, that just set my heart on fire. Nobody pours that honey like you do. So existentializing, share a cup of tea with you. The electric percolators, the nuke and microwave. If you wanna make your tea right, cutting corners anyway. Take a little longer to bring it to a steam, but the end is always better starting slow with you and me. Call me in the morning, call me late at night. Call me when you're feeling that something is right. Call me when you're looking for someone to set you free. Call me in the morning and we'll have a cup of tea. Something is right. Call me when you're looking for someone to set you free. Call me in the morning and we'll have a cup of tea. Oh, darling, well, your lips can drive me wild. The way you wrap them around my cup to sip the tea inside. I know that you like it when it's hot. You can stand the heat if it's something sweet and it's coming from my pot. Well, I know you're something special and I want you for my own. But sometimes when I call you, no one picks up the phone. And just the other morning, about to scare me half to death, when you showed up for a cup of tea with coffee on your breath. I said, call me in the morning, call me late at night, call me when you're feeling that something isn't right. Call me when you're looking for someone to set you free. Call me in the morning and we'll have a cup of tea. I said, call me in the morning and we'll have a cup of tea. I said, call me in the morning and we'll have a cup of tea. Yeah.
Remember, you can donate to the podcast at strpod.com. Thank you for listening.